Our agenda today is to, first of all, provide a brief introduction to Panorama Consulting. Secondly, to provide a summary of Panorama's 2009 ERP report. And finally, to provide some additional detail of a summary of ERP implementation results from our 2009 ERP study. Before we get started, let's talk a little bit about Panorama Consulting. We are an independent and specialized niche consulting firm that focuses exclusively on the ERP space. We provide three primary offerings. First is ERP evaluation and selection. Second is ERP implementation project management. And third is ERP organizational change management and benefits. We have experience with over 100 different ERP solutions, including Tier 1 solutions like SAP and Oracle, all the way on down to Tier 2 solutions and industry and niche solutions as well. We have depth and focus and experience in a number of industry verticals, including manufacturing, distribution, supply chain, and mid-size high-growth companies. Perhaps most importantly, we are ERP vendor independent and neutral. So diving right into our 2009 ERP report, we wanted to talk a little bit first about the methodology we used and what data comprises the study. First of all, this was a 3-year study of 1,300 organizations across the globe, and it included companies of all different sizes and all different industry verticals. So it's a very broad and rich set of data that we have to work with. In addition to the quantitative data that we gathered from these 1,300 organizations, we also compiled additional qualitative data by conducting deep dive interviews with samplings of organizations within the groups. We also included organizations that implemented a variety of ERP solutions ranging from SAP and Oracle and other Tier 1 solutions, but also including companies that had implemented Tier 2 solutions and best of breed and niche solutions as well. Now, the first key metric that we found in our study, and this is a very high-level summary, is that 93% of ERP projects take longer than expected, 65% cost more than expected, and 79% fail to realize at least half of the business benefits that they had expected to achieve. So the message here is that although ERP software can deliver great results to organizations and significant operational improvements, getting there is a different story, and many companies do face challenges and difficulties implementing ERP in an effective way and in a cost and time effective way as well. In addition, we also found that there are 4 key challenges that companies faced. First is a lack of employee buy-in. Second is a lack of ERP expertise. Third is a lack of project resources. And fourth is too small of a budget. Those were the top 4 challenges that companies faced in our study. We also found that 71% of implementations take anywhere between 6 and 18 months. So while that may seem like a fairly broad range, and it is a fairly broad range, an overwhelming majority of organizations spend somewhere between half a year and a year and a half implementing their ERP solutions. And we also found that in addition to the 7%, or the mere 7% of projects that finish on time, we also found that 68% took much longer than expected. So the 93% of companies that take longer than expected is even more underscored by the fact that 68% of those take much longer than expected. So these aren't just immaterial or insignificant time overruns. Companies, and many companies out there, do spend a lot more time than they expect. We also found, in addition to most implementations going over budget, and to the right of your screen, you can see a breakdown of how much over budget some of these organizations went. For example, you can see that 16% went at least 50% over budget, and 6% weren't sure where they landed on their actual cost versus their budget, which that's typically not a good sign that they don't know, and typically that indicates that it's a very high number. So, if you look at that number, about 1 in 5 have some pretty severe cost overruns, and you can see the breakdown of some of the additional cost overages as well. In addition to that point, we also found that 57% of respondents are satisfied with ERP, which means that about 2 of 3 ERP initiatives indicate that they are at least somewhat satisfied with the investment that they've made in ERP. So as we continue to dig a little bit deeper into some of these implementation results, in particular starting off by looking at average implementation duration, we can see that the average company, if we look at the average across all industries and all company sizes, the average implementation duration is just under 20 months, and the median is right around 17 months. So we can see that while there is a variation amongst the different vendors in the discussion of whether or how each of these ERP solutions compare to one one another is outside this scope, but we can see that what some of those overall averages are across the board in the red box on the right side of your screen. If we look at implementation cost, we can also see that the average company across all industries and all company sizes spends $8.5 million for their total cost of ERP ownership. This includes everything from software licenses, maintenance, internal hardware upgrade costs, internal project backfill costs, external consulting resources, project management, etc. The average company is going to be, for all-in costs, is going to be right around $8.5 million. If we normalize that number a little bit to kind of accommodate companies of different sizes, we see and we found that the average company spends 9% of their revenue on their total investment in ERP. So that's a good rule of thumb. Depending on your revenue size, you can use that 9% as a good benchmark to see, what a good high level rough estimate of your ERP expectations might be. And again, we can see that different solutions have different costs associated with them and have different actual results here. And the intent is not to compare the different solutions to one another, but just to show you what the average company spends on their ERP initiatives. And there's certainly more detailed data that we have both on our website on the ERP report via the link at the bottom of this page, but we also have more detailed benchmarks that we provide to our client base as well. Finally, if we look at ERP solution satisfaction and benefits realization, we find that about 2 out of 3 organizations achieve at least some level of business benefits, and around 2 out of 3 achieve some level of satisfaction. So in other words, roughly 2/3 say that they're achieving at least some business benefits from their ERP investment, and at least 2/3 are saying that they're at least somewhat satisfied with their ERP initiatives. So certainly these numbers aren't terrible, but they're not overwhelming either. They're not compelling reasons to justify some of the large investments that companies make in their ERP initiatives. So what these numbers suggest are that ERP challenges are not uncommon. ERP initiatives can deliver great business value, but it's not easy. Again, if we look at satisfaction and success rates, there's some mixed numbers there. And if we look at business risk, we find that roughly 50% of organizations realize some type of material operational disruption at go live. So clearly there's things left to be desired here with the average company and how they implement ERP. So some tips on how to ensure ERP success include to select the right enterprise software with the right functional fit, make sure you implement that software effectively without cutting corners, and also hire outside independent expertise. What we found is that best-in-class companies that hire Panorama Consulting or other independent ERP experts spend considerably less money overall on their overall implementation and deliver a higher level of business benefits than companies that do not use that type of outside support.